somebody made a comment on one of my previous videos and asked me to have a look at Sketchbook, and I just said I hadn't got it, I hadn't looked at it. So yeah, this is going to be a look at Sketchbook and the various controls it has. The main pro being that it's free. You can't get a much bigger pro than that, really. There are times when you look at it and you think, does it do this? Does it do that? And the reason for that is because they've kept the interface pretty clean. And there are fly-out menus where you don't necessarily think there are going to be any. Anyway, when you open it up, you get a screen opening up. Now, if I want to change the size of my page, I can tap on here and I can go to New Sketch, and I've got some presets. So my presets are these here. So I'm just going to tap off that. So down the left hand side you can see we have various brushes and pens and pencils and things, and if you scroll up and down over them you can see the different types that you have. On here on the top you will be able to access the library of various brushes, pens and so on. We'll go into that one a bit later on. And here we have the size control and the opacity, which I'm going to keep fully on. Along the top we have our various controls for doing different things, such as selections of tools, selections of areas on your screen, your transform tool, we have a bucket tool, we have a little tool which gives you different options for guides. So there's a ruler, there's a curved ruler, and there are ellipses and things like that. Now if, for example, I click on the curved ruler, you get this up, and this is quite clever. So you can adjust this, get the curve that you want. Undo is that button there. The next one is quite interesting if you want to do some patterns, because you have various ways of doing replication of design. So you have replicating from left to right, top to bottom. You have replication in radial mode, which you can adjust the number of replications that you get. And you can change where the start point is, obviously the central point. And you have another radial mode where the strokes can be extended or stopped at the center line. So depending on what mode you're on, that will go past the center line. If I tap it and do the other one, it won't go past this center line. It won't duplicate anything past that. It will stop it. So let's take this all away. And I know there is another way of doing it, but I'm just sticking to the back button at the moment just to avoid confusion. So the next one we have along here are draw styles. So you have some shapes, you have lines, you have circles and rectangles, squares, that sort of stuff. The next one is what I refer to in concepts as the wobble factor. It's a slightly straightening line. So if you draw a line and it's not quite straight, it will straighten it, depending on how much of a straighten you have on there. You can get it perfectly straight. We have grids of different sorts. Now I did have a look at this one and I didn't find this particularly easy to sort out, because I assumed that if I clicked on this I would get square grids, and I'm not getting square grids. Couldn't find out how to get square grids, but I'm sure it's possible. It's just me. I'm used to doing grids in a different way than this, obviously. It's just not doing what I expected to do, so you could research that. It's not something I would be very likely to use. Then we have a text, and then you have a icon here which you can have time-lapse video. Not something that I would particularly want to do. And the last button on the right hand side simply gives you a clear screen or not, depending on whether you've got it on or not. Gives you extra space to work in. I'm going to click off of that one. Now down here on the right hand side we have layers, and we also have access to colour wheels, things like that. So this very bottom one here is the background colour, and then you have your first layer. The plus button will add layers on the top of that, obviously. And here we have the access to various methods of getting the colours. So you can choose from this kind of stripy version. You can have a colour wheel. You can have a colour palette. Lots of choices. One thing worth mentioning on the colour options, if I tap on here, you can see that you can get Copic colours or normal colours. If you click on the Copic colours, you can select your different colours and they actually tell you what numbers and names they are, which if you're used to using Copic markers or you want to duplicate it by hand drawing at some point, is a very handy thing. And you can just scroll through and get the colour you want and pick it out of the Copic colours. That is a function that is also in Concepts. They use Copic colours, and it's handy if that's what you are used to. And this thing here is called a double puck, apparently, but it can be moved around the screen. It's the one thing that you can actually move, so you can move it out of the way if you still want to have it. And it basically gives you the access to colours and the access to brushes, and it will tell you what you've actually got selected. We have the selection tool. Now let me just put something on the canvas, just a squiggle. And if we go to our selection tools, we have lasso, a rectangle, we've got the magic wand, and then you've got various different options. The one on the right hand side is to clear your selection tool. The one next to it is inverting. This is a nudge of the selection. So if you've not got your selection quite the right place, you can nudge it up or down, side to side, whatever. And I forget what that one actually does. That one allows you to add or take something out of the selection by the looks of it. Not one I've experimented with. But for example, if you wanted to select this line, you could use the magic wand and it has selected it. And if it's not selected all of it, you can increase the amount that it does select, or if it's selected too much, you can take it down. This is the tolerance. So if a pixel is black or white, you don't need much tolerance, but if you've got any shades, you need tolerance on it so that it will pick up everything that you want it to pick up. And you just do up and down like that. The colour dropper I haven't used, but I'm imagining that's to pick out a specific colour and take everything that is that particular colour on your layer. So that is quite interesting. Now, most of the lower level free sketching software doesn't have things like the magic wand mask. So that is something that you may not have if you've got other software. They may not have that in there. It's very, very useful, and it's a nice, easy way of masking something. But yeah, it's just an added extra for a software which is free. It's a nice thing to have. So now if I go to my pens over here, you would think that, well, that's just it, that's all you have. But if you look at the top, you have a library, and you have basic, you have legacy, texture essentials, Copic nibs, synthetic paint ones, traditional ones, fine art. You've got halftones. What else we got? We got textures. We've got different shapes. If I click on this one, so if we go back into here, we've got different shapes that we can use for our particular pens. We have glows as well. If I change the colour, whoops, and make it yellow, perhaps you can see it a bit better. If I change the background colour to something dark, you can see that glows a bit, doesn't it? So there's those which are really quite good fun. Different types of glows. There's little sort of sparkly type glows and things as well. And we've got smudge tools of various sorts. Got some designer pens, nibs and brushes. Artist pens, nibs and brushes. I mean, it just goes on. Pastels. And we have colourless ones. I'm not quite sure why you'd want colourless ones, but maybe that's just to mix things on your canvas. Maybe that's what it's supposed to be. So lots and lots and lots of settings that you can have on your library of various brushes and things. Now the other thing, you have your settings, which you get if you go swiping across or click on settings, you either get settings or your library. Now under the settings, we have yet more and more options. And this gives us control over what happens with pressure, with stamping the image, with having a nib, the hardness, the shape, all sorts of things. Under the advanced tab and under the basic one, you just got the size and the flow. And at the bottom of it, you've always got a reset. So if you've adjusted your brush to something that you don't really want, you want to set it back to the factory reset, just press reset. And there you go, you're back to normal. So lots and lots and lots of different brushes and things that you can have. You vary the opacity just by varying the flow here. Lots and lots of controls. Now over on the right hand side, you've got other controls if you tap on the layer. So you've got copy, cut, paste, duplicate, clear. Those are layer controls, so you can see that gets rid of everything. You've also got color balance, you can lock it, HSL adjustment, and the ones that are grayed out at the moment, because I don't have any layers there, are merge, merge all, and delete. Then you've got your blending modes. So you get the idea, there is an awful lot in this app. It doesn't have the same control, for example, that Concepts has, because Concepts is designed so you can do architectural drawings in it quite happily with very definitive and accurate measurements, and is a vector-based app. It doesn't have all the functions that Procreate has. Procreate is not a vector app, but it has a lot of brush functions. You can create your own brushes, you can have multicolor brushes, you can get some nice patterns with this too. If I come in here and pull this out, that's an eraser. I don't want the eraser, I want maybe a brush like that. This is a watercolor one, probably not a good idea. Okay, I'll go for a vintage marker. If I go for the advanced one here, I can scroll down, I can pick a texture, and I can get it to do a different type of pattern. So, can we see that? There we go, you can just about see. It's not the best of colours to actually show that pattern there. You can see it a bit better. So you can vary that as well. And you can reset it to the default, or you can pick something else out of it. Maybe I'll go for this one. There we go. So there's lots of different things that you can do that will help you in your sketching. And as I said, I think for a free app, it's pretty good. It's not faultless, but it's certainly not bad, and it's better than a lot of other free apps. And there is no advertising involved in it. There's no extra items to pay for in here. There's no in-app purchases. And in summary, I'd say for a free app, this is pretty good. It doesn't have all the features I might like, but for a lot of people, it will do the job pretty well, and certainly adequately for most. The high points of this are the fact that it is free. It does have quite a lot of brush styles in it, and they are adjustable. It suffers, however, from lag and some freezing. Those are definitely the minuses for me because my other apps don't do that. It exports as a PNG, not as an SVG because it's not a vector file, but at least it exports as a PNG versus a JPEG. And if you're looking for an app that you don't have to actually purchase, that you can use and just play around with, this is more than adequate. So there we go, that is Autodesk Sketchbook, and I hope you enjoy the video. I'll leave you with some more choices at the end of this one, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.